Hello everyone, how are you all? I'm sure all of you are well. Let me introduce myself. Myself Rinki Bhomik, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, GIS College of Engineering. This is my 22nd lecture. Today we are going to discuss about quantum mechanics. What is quantum mechanics? This is the methods of quantum mechanics consist in finding the wave function associated with a particle or a system. Means here in quantum mechanics we consider the microscopic particle. So here all the particles represented by the wave function. That wave function is everything about the system, because all the particles can be represented in quantum mechanics only by the wave function, because it is microscopic, we can't see it. Okay, so to represent the particles we need only the wave function. Since the wave function psi describes a particle, its evolution in time under the action of the wave equation describes the future history of the particle. Means if we know the nature of the wave function, then we can actually determine that how it can behave in future, or what was the history about it, and if we change the time how it can behave, if we change the position how it can behave. All this uncertainty is built in from the beginning. So thus the wave function is very important for the particle in quantum mechanics. So here are some points for the foundation of quantum mechanics, which I will explain in this lecture later on. Here you just go through the foundations of the quantum mechanics. You just go through the points. That will be best. The wave function of a system evolves in time dependent Schrodinger equation. What is Schrodinger equation? I will discuss later on. Any measurement of the observable corresponds to the operator a cap. The only values that will ever be observed are the eigenvalues of a cap, which satisfy the eigenvalue equation. If a system is in a state described by a wave function psi, then the average value of the observable A is given by this one. These are the formula by which we can measure the average of any operator. What is operator? All these terms I actually will discuss later on in this lecture. So thank you for today. Now next I will explain all the terms, how quantum mechanics discovered, what is operator, what is wave function, what is Schrodinger equation. Everything I just explained. Now this is the explanation for you.
One of the most amazing facts in physics is this. Everything in the universe, from light to electrons to atoms, behaves like both a particle and a wave at the same time. All of the other weird stuff you might have heard about quantum physics, Schrodinger's cat, God playing dice, spooky action at a distance, all of it follows directly from the fact that everything has both particle and wave nature. This might sound crazy. If you look around, you'll see waves in water and particles of rock, and they're nothing alike. So why would you think to combine them? Physicists didn't just decide to mash these things together out of nowhere. Rather, they were led to the dual nature of the universe through a process of small steps, fitting together lots of bits of evidence, like pieces in a puzzle. The first person to seriously suggest the dual nature of light was Albert Einstein in 1905. But he was picking up an earlier idea from Max Planck. Planck explained the colors of light emitted by hot objects, like the filament in a light bulb. But to do it, he needed a desperate trick. He said the object was made up of oscillators that could only emit light in discrete chunks, units of energy that depend on the frequency of the light. Planck was never really happy with this, but Einstein picked it up and ran with it. He applied Planck's idea to light itself, saying that light, which everybody knew was a wave, is really a stream of photons, each with a discrete amount of energy. Einstein himself called this the only truly revolutionary thing he did, but it explains the way light shining on a metal surface knocks loose electrons. Even people who hated the idea had to agree that it works brilliantly. The next puzzle piece came from Ernest Rutherford in England. In 1909, Ernest Marsden and Hans Geiger, working for Rutherford, shot alpha particles at gold atoms and were stunned to find that some bounced straight backwards. This showed that most of the mass of the atom is concentrated in a tiny nucleus. The cartoon atom you learn in grade school, with electrons orbiting like a miniature solar system, that's Rutherford's. There's one little problem with Rutherford's atom. It can't work. Classical physics tells us that an electron whipping around in a circle emits light, and we use this all the time to generate radio waves and X-rays. Rutherford's atom should spray X-rays in all directions for a brief instant before the electron spirals in to crash into the nucleus. But Niels Bohr, a Danish theoretical physicist working with Rutherford, pointed out that atoms obviously exist, so maybe the rules of physics needed to change. Bohr proposed that an electron in certain special orbits doesn't emit any light at all. Atoms absorb and emit light only when electrons change orbits, and the frequency of the light depends on the energy difference in just the way Planck and Einstein introduced. Bohr's atom fixes Rutherford's problem and explains why atoms emit only very specific colors of light. Each element has its own special orbits, and thus its own unique set of frequencies. The Bohr model has one tiny problem. There's no reason for those orbits to be special. But Louis de Broglie, a French PhD student, brought everything full circle. He pointed out that if light, which everyone knew is a wave, behaves like a particle, maybe the electron, which everyone knew is a particle, behaves like a wave. And if electrons are waves, it's easy to explain Bohr's rule for picking out the special orbits. Once you have the idea that electrons behave like waves, you can go look for it. And within a few years, scientists in the US and UK had observed wave behavior from electrons. These days, we have a wonderfully clear demonstration of this, shooting single electrons at a barrier with slits cut in it. Each electron is detected at a specific place at a specific time, like a particle. But when you repeat the experiment many times, all the individual electrons trace out a pattern of stripes, characteristic of wave behavior. The idea that particles behave like waves and vice versa is one of the strangest and most powerful in physics. Richard Feynman famously said that this illustrates the central mystery of quantum mechanics. Everything else follows from this, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place.
Today we are going to discuss about quantum mechanics. Okay. So today's chapter is very important chapter, that is quantum mechanics. Now what is quantum mechanics? Quantum mechanics actually came after classical mechanics. As we know, in classical mechanics, all the particles are macroscopic particles. Macroscopic particles. Which has particular finite mass, finite volume, okay, finite area. But this is for classical mechanics. Classical mechanics. Now, for quantum mechanics, it is microscopic particles. So first is for What is the difference, main difference between them? It is macroscopic particle, this is microscopic particles. Okay. Now, what are the examples of microscopic particles? Like electron, proton, phonon, all these particles we discuss, all the properties we discuss in the quantum mechanics. In case of classical mechanics, all the particles we can see, but in case of quantum mechanics, we cannot see in our open eye, because these are the microscopic particles. Electron, proton, neutron we never can see. Now, there are some postulates. There are the postulates of quantum mechanics. What are the postulates that we have to know? Now there are 5 postulates. The first postulate is the postulate 1. Postulate 1 is when a system consisting of a single particle moving in a conservative force field that is associated with a complex wave function. Here we have got the first concept of the wave function. Means here each particle, suppose we have a particle E minus. In that case, that will be represented by a wave function psi, that is function of position and time, x and t. Or if we consider in 3 dimension, then psi of r comma t, which completely describes the space-time behavior. This is space, this is time. So space-time behavior of the particle consistent with the uncertainty principle. So the first postulate here is the wave function. This wave function never came before the quantum mechanics. The second postulate is every dynamical variable. Dynamical variable means we can say like position, or you can say velocity, momentum. All these are the dynamical variables. So dynamical variable of a system, these are represented by the operator. Like suppose the position is x, then the operator will be x cap or x hat. Okay, momentum p, the operator is p cap. Energy E, the operator is E cap. So these are the operators. These operator first, this kind of idea came in quantum mechanics. This kind of all the dynamical variable first represented by the operator in quantum mechanics. X is S cap, X cap, P is P cap, E is E cap, and there are so many another operators which we'll discuss later on. Now there is the third postulate. Now what is the third postulate? The third postulate is the only possible values of the dynamical variables. Dynamical variables means already I said. Okay, so what are the possible values of these dynamical variables? What are the possible values of dynamical variable? Dynamical variable. So experimentally measured are the eigenvalues of the operator. Means suppose we have a general operator A cap. Okay, so if a cap it operates on the wave function psi n, if we operate it on psi n, then what we can get, a cap psi n equal to lambda n psi n, where lambda n is the eigenvalue. Lambda n is the eigenvalue, psi n is the wave function, a cap is the operator. So if we operate by on this eigen function by this operator, then we can get the lambda n, which is the eigenvalue, and after that we will get the wave function as it was before. So a hat psi n equal to lambda n psi n. This is the possible eigenvalue of the dynamical variable. Now see, instead of a cap we can put here x cap, we can put here p cap, we can put here e cap. So if we operate by these operators, then we can get the eigenvalue. So these are the wave function and these are the eigenvalue. Now there are some properties of these eigenvalues, okay, which you have to know. The first is lambda n must be real and observable. This is the first. Second is lambda n must be well behaved. Okay, well behaved. Third is, there is another property, that is an observation on a dynamical variable that is a cap on an eigenstate psi. This is the eigenstate psi of a system definitely leads to the result lambda n. That you can skip also this one. You can only remember these two properties of the eigenfunction, lambda n real and observable, lambda n that is your well behaved. These are two properties of the eigenfunction. Now there is the fourth postulate, the probability. The probability P equal to integration over rho t tau. Integration over psi star psi d tau. Psi star psi d tau. Okay. So this is the probability, formula of the probability. P equal to integration over rho d tau. Rho is equal to psi star psi. This is the probability. So if we do this volume integration over the volume tau, then tau equal to over tau psi star psi d tau is equal to always will be 1. This is the probability of finding any particle. Now there is the fifth postulate. The fifth postulate is very important, that is here, since here by this postulate here we came to know about the average. Average or expectation value. average or expectation value. Now, what is the formula of this average or expectation value? A equal to, this is the formula of the expectation value, A equal to integration over tau psi star psi. Before that, here psi star psi d tau. This is the formula of the, but here there is the difference. The difference is here you have to integration psi star a cap psi d tau. This is the average or expectation value of the any operator a hat over a eigenfunction psi. So as we can see that psi star a cap psi d tau, this is the average or expectation value. Now, if we recapitulate, first we introduced the wave function. First we introduced the wave function psi x comma t. The electron has the wave function psi. Next is the position, velocity, momentum. Position is x, momentum is p, E is the energy. We can also represent it by the operator x cap, p cap, e cap. Possible values of the dynamical variable a cap psi n equal to lambda and psi n. Also p equal to integration over rho d tau, psi star psi d tau equal to 1. This is the probability. Now average or expectation value a equal to psi star a cap psi d tau. So this is the formula of the expectation value. Okay, so how to calculate the expectation value of the operator a cap? In that case we can remember it. These are the features of the wave eigenvalue a cap psi n equal to lambda and psi n. These are the actually values of this dynamical variable lambda n equal to real and observable. This will be always real, this will be always observable. Lambda n is well behaved, this is well behaved eigenvalue. So these are the five postulates. We have to remember the formula as well as we have to remember the statement of each postulate also. Okay. Now today's next topic is about one-dimensional time-dependent Schrödinger equation. So what is about this one-dimensional time-dependent Schrödinger equation? This is a totally new term. Schrödinger actually developed a equation by which we can solve any we can get the solution of the wave function. That's why Schrodinger developed this equation which called Schrodinger equation. Now psi of x comma t is equal to a e to the power minus I of omega t minus kx is equal to a e to the power kx minus omega t. Now if we see here, by this wave function we can develop a new Schrodinger equation. The Schrodinger equation is minus h cut square by 2m d square psi dx square plus v psi equal to e psi, where v is nothing but the potential, psi is the wave function, e is the energy. So minus h cut square by 2m d square psi dx square plus v psi equal to e psi. This is the one-dimensional time-dependent Schrodinger equation. Now why I am telling this as time-dependent? So this is about minus h cut square by 2m d square psi dx square plus vx psi equal to e psi, where e is the energy. Now v is the potential, v of x is the potential, e is the energy, h is the Planck constant. Okay, now let me show you how you can prove it. Though it's not in your syllabus, but still I am showing you how you can prove it. If psi of x equal to a e to the power I by h cut px minus et. So if we do the first derivative, del psi by del x is equal to a I by h cut px e to the power I by h cut e to the power I by h cut px minus et is equal to I by h cut px psi. If we do del square psi by del x square, that will be equal to, if we do the second derivative, then finally the result will be minus 1 by h cut square px square psi. So finally therefore we can get px square psi is equal to minus h cut square del square psi by del x square. Now del psi by del t is equal to a I by h cut minus e to the power I by h cut px minus et is equal to minus I by h cut e psi equal to e psi by I h cut. Now e psi equal to I h cut del psi by del t. So therefore px square by 2m into psi is equal to I h cut del psi by del t. Finally px square psi equal to I h cut 2m del psi by del t. This is, after that what we can write, that minus h cut square del square psi by del x square is equal to I h cut by 2m del psi by del t, del psi by del t, isn't it? Because px equal to I h cut by I h cut del del x. Okay, minus I h cut del del x. So if we do the square of it, then we can get minus h cut square del square psi del x square equal to I h cut 2m del psi by del t. So finally minus h cut square by 2m del square psi del x square is equal to I h cut del psi by del t. This is about the Schrodinger equation. This is the total wave function. By the wave function we can prove the Schrodinger equation. Minus h cut square by 2m del square psi del x square is equal to I h cut del psi by del t. This is the one-dimensional form of the time-dependent Schrodinger equation. Thus, by considering a wave function, particular form of the wave function, we can prove the Schrodinger equation, which is very important. Next day we will discuss about the 3 dimension, because since we are in 3 dimensions, so that's why we always have to consider the 3-dimensional form. Okay, so by the 3-dimensional form, how actually the Schrodinger equation looks, that we have to discuss, and then also we'll do some problems, some example, a lot of things about the Schrodinger equation. So thank you for today, and if you have any question regarding anything, then please feel free to ask.